morning. I'm Pauline Verzosa. It is Friday, the 20th of March, and we're bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Now, welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. And now, first on the agenda. The peso has fallen to a new all-time low, adding more pressure on Filipinos already struggling with rising fuel prices and high costs of basic goods. And with global tensions also impacting oil supply, what does this mean for consumers? Here's that report.
The burden on the ordinary Filipino seems never-ending. Amid rising fuel prices and their domino effect on other goods and services, the peso continues to weaken against the US dollar. On Thursday, the peso closed at a new all-time low of 60 pesos and 10 centavos against the dollar. This marks the first time the peso-dollar exchange rate has breached the 60 peso level. This is also the first time the peso has hit a new all-time low in just the month of March. The first was recorded on March 9 when the exchange rate closed at 59 pesos and 50 centavos. This comes amid ongoing attacks by US and Israeli forces on Iran, which began on February 28. Economist Emmanuel Leco explained on The Big Story that imported goods will be hit first, especially petroleum. The problem, oil is traded globally in US dollars. With the peso weakening, oil becomes even more expensive. This is on top of concerns over possible supply disruptions due to tensions in the Strait of Hormuz.
Purchasing power of the Filipinos is being threatened in two fronts. One is the weakening of our currency, and on another front is the inflation that is being triggered by the continuing increase of oil prices.
With expensive fuel and a weaker peso combined, transport costs for goods are expected to rise further. In the end, it is the public that bears the burden.
The government will have to be more active, not necessarily on the financial or monetary aspect, but I think the government may consider doing more on the fiscal side.
For now, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas continues to monitor the foreign exchange rate. If the situation worsens, the BSP may sell US dollars from its reserves to help slow the peso's depreciation.
Well, 4 in 10 Filipinos say lowering food prices should be the government's top priority, a concern that has grown as the Middle East conflict pushes fuel costs higher. The Pulse Asia survey commissioned by Strat-based Institute found that 41% of respondents flagged food affordability as their main concern. Other priorities included eliminating corruption at 26%, creating more jobs and livelihood opportunities at 24%, and providing accessible education and healthcare services at 10%. Strat-based Institute President Dindo Manhit said the results reflect how geopolitical tensions are affecting Filipino households, with citizens increasingly focused on immediate economic pressures such as food prices and income stability. Well, economist Jonathan Ravelas warned that a weak peso and rising oil prices could push inflation in the Philippines above 4%. In an interview with Storycon, Ravelas noted that prolonged geopolitical tensions could sustain elevated oil prices, which in turn may slow economic growth while driving up consumer costs. He urged the government and private sector to shift to alternative energy like biomass while strengthening liquidity, hedging foreign exchange risks, and adjusting pricing to manage cost pressures. Ravelas also added that the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is unlikely to heavily intervene in the peso, focusing instead on keeping inflation within its 2 to 4% target. Meanwhile, Gay Jandal of Action for Economic Reform said the government should prioritize targeted subsidies rather than suspending the fuel excise tax.
If oil prices already moved beyond 100, 110, and your peso didn't depreciate way beyond that when you are a net importing country of oil, definitely the repercussions are there. No, it's going to be inflationary, and of course, it will create a slowdown. So the question is, really, will this persist? No, itong war will persist. So that, I think, is a question. So that leaves us where the peso will take. No, if the extended war continues beyond 6 weeks, then definitely that means oil could move between 100 to even 150. So that's where we are. And definitely, inflationary and then the risks of an inflation over 4%, then that means the BSP will most likely not cut rates. If we're not going to look at other things and we always think of the worst, then definitely nothing's going to happen. I think at this point in time, and this is where government should look into probably revitalizing how we move to biomass and all, try to look at other alternatives that we used to have before. But at this point in time, definitely the first thing people should be doing is try to look at one, for especially for companies, is look at their liquidity, especially for companies. Second, lessen their exposure or hedge their exposure on foreign exchange. And then look at their pricing strategy today, di ba? Kasi magkakaroon ng margin compression.
Yung fuel excise taxes po kasi, yung suspension po nito, sa madaling sabi, we agree with our economists nationwide basically na medyo regressive po talaga siya. Okay? Regressive po siya. Ang pinaka magbe-benefit po kasi dito, hindi naman po yung dapat na mag-benefit, which is yung tinatawag na bottom 50% of the of households, no? Yung pinaka mag-benefit po dito ay yung nasa yung may kaya po talaga. So it really begs the question po. The immediate question there is, sino ho ba talaga ang gusto nating tulungan? Yung ordinaryong mamamayan po ba talaga o ano po? So meron naman pong mga policy tools na mas effective. Ito po kasi yung fuel excise tax suspension, it is a blunt instrument po that would provide a temporary relief for a long-term problem with long-term consequences. So, katulad po nung 2022, nagkaroon din po tayo ng fuel crisis. Nagkaroon naman po tayo ng response doon na targeted. No? Targeted po yung mga vulnerable sectors, the poor, the transportation sector. So, we were hoping that we would see the same kind of response considering na we were able to ride out the crisis back then. It's relatively successfully naman po compared to today. So, we expect that in the long run, this will bite us back.
Well, the future of agriculture in the Philippines now hinges on the next generation. With the country's farmers getting older, government and industry leaders are pushing for more youth to take up farming. Mobile journalist Daniel Laurel has that report.
As Filipino farmers face an aging crisis, efforts are underway to encourage the younger generations to enter agriculture. Food production, rural employment, and the country's food system, all now at stake as farmers continue to age. Despite over 10 million registered farmers, the Department of Agriculture stresses the need for greater youth participation.
Yung sitwasyon natin sa sektor ng pagsasaka ay may challenge, especially on aging population with an average of 57 years old and also the low participation of our young generation engaging in agriculture sectors. Very crucial kasi sila ang magbibigay ng panibagong perspektibo, mga innovation nila. May maraming mga ideya rin ating mga kabataan.
And with the sector evolving, the Agricultural Training Institute is rolling out free programs.
Yung agricultural landscape ngayon ay evolve. Meron naman tayong mga smart agriculture, integration of information technology, mga data-driven technologies, and as well as climate resiliencies. At marami pong programs, si ATI, for them to join and build a career in agriculture, particularly those who have innovative ideas to solve concerns in agriculture.
These programs include DG Agri-Haki, where students develop solutions to real farming challenges, internship opportunities abroad, offering hands-on training in modern agriculture, alongside e-courses and support for youth groups like 4-H clubs. And for some young Filipinos, the shift is already happening.
I mean, any agriculture-related programs are very suited talaga worth it. Ang daming fieldworks at talagang masasabi ko na na buhay ang college life ninyo kapag tinake ninyo ang agri-related programs. So far, so good. Sobrang nag-enjoy ako. First sem pa lang nung last year. Talagang kahit mahirap, may mga scientific names na kailangan naming aralin. Talagang nag-enjoy
Panood ko
ako.
po yung pagtatanim ng lettuce. Start po ako magtanim sa 16 cups of lettuce lamang. Trinay ko po siyang i-post sa online. Hindi ko po lubos akalain na marami pong bibili kapag pundar po tayo ng sariling greenhouse at nakakapag-harvest na po tayo ng 400 cups of lettuce per month.
In the end, experts say agriculture today is no longer just traditional
Pag
farming.
sinabi mo kasing agrikultura or agriculture sa kanila, madalas naikakabit nila ito sa word na kahirapan, ano. Ay, ito yung mga community na hindi sapat yung kita. Dito sa agriculture, hindi lang sila magiging magsasaka, kundi magiging mga agripreneurs na rin sila. Agriculture is very adventurous, ano. It is not just a boring na magtatanim ka lang yan tapos na, no.
As agriculture evolves, the next generation is encouraged to step in, not just to farm but to shape its future. Kapatid Mobile Journal, Daniel Dayaw, we are One News.
Now, don't go away. We will be back with more stories right after this break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. President Bongbong Marcos says the government will provide additional aid to public utility vehicle drivers. This comes after Marcos ordered the suspension of the 1 peso fare hike amid rising fuel prices. Marcos said the fare increase is only deferred and subsidies will be expanded to help drivers avoid losses. He also added that the government is still adjusting to volatile oil prices, but assured that measures are in place.
So we are trying to find different methods para makapagbigay ng subsidy, para makabigay ng tulong. The problem is masyadong malikot ang presyo ng langis, hindi natin ma-anticipate. So we are still adjusting right now. Huwag po mag-alala ang tao. We are securing the supplies of oil. We are securing the supplies of food.
Well, joining us this morning is Manibela Chairman Mar Valbuena. Mar, good morning to you and thank you for being here on Morning Matters.
Good morning, Ma'am Pauline, and good morning po sa lahat po ng nanonood po ngayon.
Okay, so Kamar, halos 3 linggo na, no? Simula nang sumipa ang presyo ng petrolyo dahil sa giyera sa Middle East at kayo po sa transport sector ang talagang nakaramdam ng impact nito. Kamusta na ba ang araw-araw na sitwasyon ng mga jeepney driver ngayon?
Alam niyo po, Ma'am Pauline, napakahirap. Kagabi, ang naiuwi lamang ng ating kasama ay hindi pa umabot ng 200 piso. Nasa 140 pesos lamang sa maghapon na kinita niya na kumonsumo po ng 1,400. Actually, kalahating araw nga lang po yung biyahe niya. So sabi niya, hirap na hirap kami dahil napunta lamang sa mataas na presyo ng petrolyo yung maghapon na kinita po sa pamamasada.
Pero Mar, magkano na ba ang full tank ngayon ng diesel para sa mga tsuper?
Naglalaro na po ito sa 3,000 to 3,400. Ma'am Pauline, sa 30 liters po. Kaya doon sa 72 kilometers po na dalawang round trip namin ay pumukonsumo na kami ng 1,400 pesos. Kagaya nga po nung sabi ko ay ang natira lamang dito ay wala pang 200. Nasa 140 pesos lamang. At kung isang trip, nasa 50 pesos to 60 pesos lang ang kinikita ng ating driver po. Wala pa pong boundary dito, Mama Pauline, kaya po ganun kabigat. So yung iba talagang sinusoli na yung mga susi ng kanilang mga pinapasadang jeepney sa kanilang mga operators.
Wala pang boundary doon, Sir Mar. So, ibig sabihin ba niyan hindi rin nag-adjust muna ang mga operator sa boundary nila? Para naman may kitain pa rin ang mga driver?
Nag-adjust na po ng kalahati, Ma'am Pauline. Kaya lang, hindi po talaga umabot dahil po yung paghahatian na dati naming ikinakarga, yung sa computation ko po na ibinibigay sa inyo na na 1,400. Dati kasi 600 lang ang kinakarga namin doon sa 2 trips. Ngayon po doon sa 4 na trips, ang kailangan po ay 3,000 na po ang ikarga namin. Na dati po ay naglalaro lamang sa 1,300 to 1,400. So ganun po kalaki yung ang nawawala sa aming kita na paghahatian po dapat ng driver at operator na punta lamang po sa mga gasolinahan.
Paano naman, Sir Mar, yung bilang ng mga pasahero, no, ng mga commuter? Nabawasan din ba yan nitong mga nakarang araw?
Opo, ang nangyari po ay siguro talagang sobrang pagtitipid din ng ating mga kababayan, mga pasahero ay siguro humanap din ng ibang mode of transportation, katulad po siguro ng nagbibisikleta na lamang po sila or baka may kanya-kanya pong dalang motor na.
So nabanggit nyo nga, Mar, na may ilang mga driver na napilitan ng tumigil muna sa pamamasada dahil na rin sa kakaunti na lamang yung naiuuwi nila. Gano'n na ba kalawak yung epekto ng krisis na ito at one point ninyo masasabi na hindi na talaga kaya?
Ayon nga po sa pagtaya ng MMDA, Ma'am Pauline, ay halos 30% na sa ngayon ang iniluwag ng trapiko sa Metro Manila dahil nga po marami na. Hindi lamang po jeepney drivers, mga TNBS drivers, mga UB Express. Talaga pong kagabi, nagpulong-pulong po kami. Talagang hindi na po talaga kinakaya. So bukas magkakaroon kami ng mga emergency meetings pa para pag-usapan yung mga ganitong nangyayari at kung paano masusolusyonan, kung may solusyon pa ba o talagang tigil na ho kami sa biyahe.
And alam naman natin, Kamar, na just this week, nasuspinde yung naaprubahang fare hike ng LTFRB na 1 peso sana na dagdag doon sa base fare ng traditional jeepneys. Malaking tulong po ba sana iyon kung natupad itong fare hike?
Actually, kahit papano, may dagdag sana na 100 pesos. Siguro yung kinita namin kagabi na 140 pesos, baka may 240 na kami. Kasi doon sa 7 to 8 trips, doon pa lamang kami makakakuha ng 100 pesos o equivalent doon sa 1 litro. Alam niyo ho, sa ating gobyerno, particular sa ating Pangulo, gusto ko pa sabihin, ang umaaray po yung mga driver. Pero ang pinakinggan ninyo, yung mga mananakay. So, ang hirap naman po na kami yung sumalo nung bigat, nung presyo ng taas ng petrolyo na hindi bababa sa 50 pesos. Yung piso, 2 piso, ayaw nyo pang ibigay para nang sa ganun ay makapagpatuloy kaming magserbisyo sa ating mga kababayan. So parang napakaramot naman para sa mga drivers. Pagdating po doon sa solusyon na pwedeng maibigay ng ating pamahalaan, kakarampot lang po ang kinikita. Paano ho yung pamilya din namin na umaasa dito sa pamamasada? So sana mapagbigyan pa ng pagkakataon na maibalik yung taas pasahe ng at least 2 pesos, maximum na siguro 3 pesos. Hindi na ho talaga kakayanin. Talaga hong marami na ho ang gumarahe. At kung ang nakikita lamang ng ating Pangulo ay yung subsidiya at service contracting, hindi po ito sasapat. Kaya po ba ng gobyerno na bigyan tayo ng ang mga driver ng 5,000 kada linggo na ayuda para po masustain yung kanilang kabuhayan?
Oo, kasi yun yung naging tugon ni President Marcos, Kamar, na habang isinuspindi itong fare hike, magbibigay naman daw sila ng karagdagang subsidiya para sa mga jeepney drivers. At kasama na nga po kayo, I think that's next week, 5,000 pesos. So realistically speaking, Kamar, hindi po ba tatagal ang 5,000 pesos para sa inyo?
Ma'am Pauline, sabi ko nga yung isang full tank, 3,000 pesos na. So kung gagamitin namin ito utay-utay na pang-kukrudo, siguro aabutin naman ito ng 3 araw hanggang 4 na araw. Pero talagang hindi na po kakayanin. Mag-4 na linggo na ngayong susunod na Martes o Lunes yung taas presyo ng petrolyo. Pero kahit 5 hindi po namin maamoy. Wala pa pong nakakarating sa kahit sinong driver ng TNBS, ng jeepney, ng taxi at ng UB Express.
Mm. Pero based on your experience, nakakarating ba ang ayuda sa lahat ng mga driver o may ilan din na pag-iiwanan?
Mas marami po minsan ang napag-iiwanan dahil nga po kahit may subsidy card, hindi po ito nalalagyan. At minsan pa ay may bawas, hindi namin alam kung bakit at saan po napunta ito. Yung talagang benepisyaryo nitong fuel subsidy, hindi po talaga, napakalayo po sa katotohanan na at least siguro mga 50%, 50-50 po ang nakakatanggap at hindi po nakakatanggap nito.
Mm. Pero Sir Mar, anong take nyo doon sa pagsuspende na lang din ng excise tax on fuel prices, pati na rin pinag-aaralan yung pagtanggal doon sa value-added tax na rin?
Tama po yun, Ma'am Pauline, na dapat ito yung i-prioritize ng ating pamahalaan ang pagsuspinde ng value-added tax at ng excise tax. Malaking relief ito sa ating mga tsuper at nang sa ganon ay kung kumukonsumo kami ng 30 liters times 6 pesos sa krudo at 10 pesos sa gasolina, naglalaro po ito sa 240 hanggang 300 pesos na pwedeng ma-save namin, Ma'am Pauline.
Pero nabanggit nyo, Sir Mar, sa isang interview natin na parang kulang pa rin sa sense of urgency ang gobyerno. Ano po ba yung gusto nyong makita? Ano pa ba pwede gawin ngayon ng ating gobyerno para matulungan ang transport sector?
Ma'am Pauline, uulitin ko, papasok na tayo sa ika-4 na linggo na kung saan ay mataas at patuloy na tumataas ang presyo ng petrolyo. Nasaan yung sense of urgency ng ating gobyerno sa pagpapatupad ng mga solusyon na makakagaan sa hindi lamang sa transport sector kundi sa buong bansa, sa ating ekonomiya. Wala po tayong maramdaman. Ang ang naipatutupad pa lamang sa ngayon ay magbawas ng araw ng pasok. Di po ba? Na 4 days work na lang ang ibinigay sa atin ng gobyerno. Yung ayuda, may ilan-ilan po na nabibigyan na mga tricycle driver pero hindi pa naman din po lahat. So yung pagtaas ng pamasahe, yung pag-suspend ng excise tax, value-added tax, nasaan na?
Nabanggit nyo, Sir Mar, 2 to 3 pesos sana ang itaas sa pamasahe. Tingin nyo ba yun ang reasonable na pagtaas? Kasi marami na rin pong mga commuter ang umaaray.
Yung ating mga commuters po, hindi pa nga po nila nararanasan yung bigat nung kagaya po ng nararanasan namin ngayon na 55 pesos po ang pinakamalaking pasan namin sa aming balikat na pagtaas. Kung ikukumpara doon sa 3 piso, 2 piso na ibibigay po sa atin para nang sa ganun ay makapagpatuloy tayo sa pamamasada. Subukan po muna natin kung mas magaan po ba na may masasakyan tayo o wala na tayong masasakyan doon sa hinihiling po namin.
Pero this week, Sir Mar, di ba parang nag-implement na rin ng libreng sakay ang ilang mga LGU. Nakakatulong po ba yon sa ating mga tsuper?
Wala pa po tayong nababalitaan na nag-i-implement ng libreng sakay. Ang alam lang natin, itong Quezon City na matagal nang may libreng sakay. Pero yung mga jeepney na kukontratahin at babayaran ng mga LGUs o ng nasyonal, wala pa po sa ngayon.
Pero open naman po kayo, ang grupo ninyo, kung sakaling ikontrata ang ilang mga tsuper para sumali dito sa libreng sakay program.
Ma'am Pauline, okay po na ikontrata pero hindi po pwedeng ilang tsuper lang. Dapat po lahat po nung pumapasada, tignan po natin kung saan po, kung matutupad yung sinabi ng ating Pangulo, salamat na lahat ay bibigyan ng kontrata ng libreng sakay. Kasi katulad nung sinasabi ko last time na halimbawa doon sa isang ruta, kagaya niyan, may 100 po na jeepney na bumibiyahe, 100 na UB Express. Kung tigkalahati lang po niyan ang bibigyan natin ng kontrata, papaano yung kalahati na hindi makaka-avail? Siyempre po, kung ako yung pasahero, doon ako sasakay sa libreng sakay. At bakit ako sasakay? Doon sa hindi nakakontrata na magbabayad ako ng pamasahe. So, walang kikitain yung hindi po mapapasama doon sa programa.
Sir Mar, mukhang mahaba-haba pa yung krisis na ito, ano? And kahapon, nagsagawa na ng transport strike ang grupong Piston. Sabi nyo, hindi po muna sumali ang Manibela kasi sayang naman din yung opportunity para kumita. Pero may balak po ba kayo in the future na mag-stage na rin ng transport strike?
Ma'am Pauline, dahil sa outrage na rin ng ating mga kasamahan sa pampublikong transportasyon. Hindi lamang po sa jeepney, simula ng sinuspend ito, galit na galit po dahil nga hindi man lamang tayo pinakinggan at hindi man lamang kinonsider yung pagdurusa nitong ating mga kasamahan. Kaya ngayon pa lang, siguro dito, una kong sasabihin na ngayong susunod na linggo, magdideklara po kami ng mas malawak pang tigil pasada.
Next week po, anong araw po, Sir Mar?
Yan po yung malalaman natin sa Lunes, Ma'am Pauline, itong mga susunod na araw dahil may patawag kami na emergency meeting ngayong hapon.
And sa tansya po ninyo, gaano po ba karami ang sasali sa magiging transport strike na ito?
Ma'am Pauline, kung kahapon ay na-paralyze na ang transportasyon o marami na ang na-stranded na pasahero, ayaw man nating gawin ito. Pero siguro doble nung kahapon ang mararanasan na tigil pasada ng ating bansa.
Alright, well, maraming salamat para sa inyong oras at sa pakikipanayam sa amin ngayong umaga. That was Manibela Chairman Mar Valbuena.
Maraming salamat po.
Well, queues stretched to the end of the main highway at a gas station in Talisay City, Cebu, as a private company offered free full-tank all-you-can fuel. Motorists said the initiative provided much-needed relief amid consecutive price hikes in fuel and other essentials. Over 1,000 drivers benefited from the program. And the company behind the initiative encouraged other private businesses to launch similar efforts as part of their corporate social responsibility.
Nakita kasi namin yung struggle ng mga fellow Cebuanos and Filipinos na grabe talaga. We are very affected with the price hike, and not just the oil kasi yung the rising of the price, also the other na mga bilihin. This is the time to help each other, to lift up everyone. I hope sa simple gesture na ginawa namin, we will be inspired also na to give free or to give back or any form of na we can help our community.
Do stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back after this short break. Good morning and welcome back. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and here on Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and we give you the context behind the headlines. As we know, the House Justice Committee has set the initial dates for the formal impeachment hearings of Vice President Sara Duterte. Committee Chairperson Jervil Luistro said that the hearings will take place on March 25, April 14, April 22, and April 29, 2026. Panel member Terry Redon said that multiple procedural motions are expected to be addressed at the start of the hearings. The committee earlier declared the third and fourth impeachment complaints against the vice president as sufficient in grounds. Well, meanwhile, political commentator Lovely Granada is trending online following her challenge for a public debate with Vice President Sara Duterte. Granada, a content creator from Butuan City who grew up in General Santos, has gained attention for her direct and critical commentary on politics, particularly on the Duterte administration. In her interviews, Granada said she is speaking as a Filipino citizen, seeking answers on key issues, including the war on drugs. Well, joining us this morning is none other than content creator and social commentator Lovely Granada herself. Lovely, good morning to you.
Magandang umaga. Good morning, Miss Powie. It's an honor to be with you today.
Well, it's such a lovely morning to speak with you. So Lovely, you gained traction immediately online as a social political vlogger, a political commentator. I know you just started around October last year, no? But how did you find yourself in this space?
Well, actually, I've been expressing my social views, my political views, particularly even back then, like maybe 2017. But I wasn't really a vlogger, quote unquote, that time. But sa Facebook, ano naman ako I was vocal na, pero dinadaan ko lang sa Facebook text. But yeah, I found myself really gaining traction after the video I made on Eman Atienza's death, passing, and the DDS people were trying to still mock her for apparently mocking the Dutertes. So yeah, Eman Atienza had this video celebrating the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. And so most DDS were saying, so that's what happened. That's what happens to you when you mock Dutertes. So I was really taken aback, and I couldn't hold back anymore. I just couldn't stay silent.
Right. So that's what sparked you to start speaking out on social issues. But let's go back to where you started first, Lovely. So you grew up in Mindanao. You were born in Butuan City, but you grew up in General Santos. How did that political environment shape your views and your understanding of politics and power?
Well, basically, my father, I grew up listening to my father because he was a radio commentator after he retired from the military. So I would hear his comments about social issues, in Bisaya. But to me, back then, it was just, a noise in the background. And then, you're raised in a public school, you're a debater and a campus journalist as well, so you get to read a lot about politics. So that's when I become aware.
Okay, so it runs in the family, that social awareness. You mentioned that your father worked as a radio commentator, so you've been exposed at a very young age to all these social and political issues. But many are curious on your accent, Lovely. Where'd you get it?
I was listening because my dad loved to listen to cassette tapes before, and those people in the cassette tapes that I listened to, they spoke this way. So I just imitated, even if I didn't really understand what they were saying. Okay. So ayun nadala ko na siya. Kasi before grade 1, before ako grade 1, yun na yung pinapakinggan ko. So when I officially started learning English, yun na yung nagagaya ko.
No, but it's very interesting because it adds to your whole persona, right, as a content creator. Okay, but recently, Lovely, you challenged Vice President Sara Duterte to a public debate. Tell us the context of that. Ano ba yung kwento doon?
Actually, so I've been making contents and I've been reacting to issues, right? So the DDS vloggers have been, telling me, have a debate with me. They've been challenging me incessantly to have a debate with them, but I'm just... So, mag-isa lang ako. And then, marami sila. And, I have my job outside social media, so I can't really, have a debate with them one by one. So I said, okay, I'm going to have Sara Duterte instead. Instead of you vloggers, I'm just going to face VP Sara Duterte. Para isahan na lang.
Okay.
So, ayun.
Oh, well, that's a very straightforward approach, right? But are you expecting a response from the Vice President?
Well, hopefully, yeah, hopefully. Although in the past, she's got that reputation that she doesn't really attend debates. But it would be really nice if I could have, a conversation with her. But I don't know. I don't think she will.
What would that conversation look like, Lovely? What topics, what questions do you have for the Vice President?
Well, I've actually already said this in Billionario. I want to sit with her regarding the anti-political dynasty bill, her views, an honest assessment of her father's, our former president's drug war, and the direction, like if she becomes president, her broad direction about the Philippines, her governance, if ever.
Well, Lovely, some people say that it's quite difficult for political commentators, for political vloggers to be completely neutral. But where do you stand politically?
I love the Philippines, and a lot of people have known me to be pink, but I don't really want to be boxed inside a political color. Although I have to be very clear why I align myself with the pink movement. It's because I am very clear that being pink means you believe in transparency, accountability, and good governance, not just because you support Lenny. Because, there's a big difference between a Lenny supporter and a pink, although many, of course, all pink support Lenny, but not all those who support Lenny are actually pink. This is what I see. Like, if you support Lenny, but you also support corrupt politicians, then maybe you're just a Lenny supporter. You're not really pink.
Okay.
So, and I say that, if you love the Philippines, of course, you would believe in transparency, accountability, and good governance. So my being pink is being pro-Philippines. That's where I
Pro-Philippines
stand.
and pro-good governance. But Lovely, it's no secret. We do know that Mindanao is often associated as a stronghold of the Dutertes. How do people in your own community respond when they hear your views?
Most of them are angry, I guess. They're angry, they're hostile. They're uncomfortable, but I also receive a lot of, I've been flooded with lots of support from fellow kabisayaan, fellow Bisaya. Kasi when I say Bisaya, kasi it's not just Cebuano eh. It composes of other Bisaya na iba din yung language. May mga Hiligaynon, ganon. They've been flooding us with support. And may parang nakikita na nga akong movement ngayon na, they're standing up and they're saying, Bisaya ko, pero dili maka Duterte. Because, it's been quite a long time that we have this, kumbaga, may reputation yung Vismi na solid Duterte eh. But no, people are now standing up saying, Bisaya ako, pero dili maka Duterte. Ganon.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So you think there's room for political diversity in a region like Mindanao that, as we mentioned, is often associated as the bailiwick, the stronghold of the Duterte family?
Yes, I believe we are breaking the echo chambers. Marami actually ang silent, hindi lang nagsasalita because, iba kasi kapag when you speak against the Dutertes, the people around you are very hostile, very aggressive. They would even, attack you and even your family. And that's what's happening to me right now. Pero no, ang nakikita ko ngayon, the more that they're doing that, mas marami actually ang napupukaw. At mas nakikita nila na, ayun, oo nga, no, parang napaka-toxic ng grupong ito. Parang hindi kailangan mamayagpag itong mga ganitong klaseng tao.
Well, Lovely, in Philippine politics, people can be very loyal to a certain leader or to a certain group, ano? What's your take on that, and where do you think this level of loyalty comes from?
Well, I believe masyadong mahirap. It's really difficult to actually get rid or eliminate this personality politics. And, when you are poor and when you do not really have access to education, just a little help, bigyan ka lang ng bigas, bigyan ka lang ng pangkain, yung loyalty nasa politiko na. So I really hope na we will progress more. We will move forward as Filipino people on this, no? Na wag nating bigyan, wag natin, I will have to speak in Filipino para mas marami pong makarelate.
Go ahead.
Okay lang po ba, Miss Paui?
Yes, go ahead, Lovely.
So, ayun. Yeah, and so, wag natin isipin, I really want to encourage people na wag natin isipin na utang na loob natin sa mga politiko yung tulong nila. That's actually the bare minimum. yun ang talagang trabaho nila. And I believe ito nga, personality politics din. Naniniwala ako na itong mga taong to may personal sila na connection sa mga politikong ito, and so they remain loyal kahit pa may mga balita challenging their accountability, challenging their reputation. Hindi sila parang para sa kanila paninira yun Pero ayun, sana ma-break natin yun kasi matagal na tayong baon, and when we remain in this situation, mahirap na umahon bilang bilang bansang Pilipinas.
Well, you've been very vocal about fighting disinformation in the Philippines, Lovely. How would you characterize the level of disinformation now in the country, and in a space that is already crowded with political vloggers, and political commentary? How do you make sure that your content adds to clarity rather than just it being noise?
I did not react immediately. That's why, if napapansin nyo, maingay na laging there may ganitong issue and then agad marami ng reactions. But what I do is I read a lot, and then I structure my videos, and then that's when I make videos. Kaya yung mga videos ko I usually just release once a week. Although, of course, I have my own job as well. So yeah, I really read a lot, and I make sure that whatever I say, hopefully factual, always, because I don't want to be out there fighting disinformation, and I'm the one actually distributing misinformation. So, iniiwasan natin yun.
Yeah, but you also mentioned that you faced backlash, you even received threats. How is that affecting the work that you do, and how have those experiences shaped you? May nararamdaman ka bang takot din minsan?
Well, I fear for my family because, my family has been reading some comments. They're trying to trace where my family lives, and, they're planning to attack my family. I don't know how serious they are, but, you get to have this fear. But, well, we've talked, and, they've been doing this for quite a long time. And if I back out just because I fear, then what will happen to many of us? I cannot back down now. So, ayun, I just really have constant conversation with the Lord. And kung ano man ang mangyari, it's really on them. Because I know that the work I'm doing, I'm very clear with my goal, and I'm just an ordinary Filipino person, Filipino citizen, speaking up for myself.
Well, Lovely, the country is facing a lot of issues right now. I wanted to ask you, what do you think people should be focusing on more? And do you also see yourself staying in content creation? How would you describe the work that you're doing now? Is it vlogging? Are you an activist, or are you simply a concerned citizen?
I'm simply a concerned citizen with the platform. I'm actually a bit uncomfortable when people tell me, oh, she's an influencer or a political vlogger, because I don't know, it just doesn't sink in. I'm just, I'm just a concerned citizen speaking up with a platform in social media. So, yeah.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure getting to know you this morning, Lovely. We hope to have you again in another time. But for now, thank you very much for joining us. That was Lovely Granada.
Thank you, Powie.
And in other news, the Senate has adjourned its session, wrapping up the first quarter of 2026 with a string of key measures, from social services and consumer protection to agriculture, energy, and economic reforms. Mobile journalist Marimon Reyes has that report.
The Senate adjourned its session on Wednesday, closing its first quarter of 2026 with key legislative initiatives pursued. This includes passing measures expanding care for individuals with autism spectrum disorder, strengthening consumer protection, and granting flexibility to the Department of Education in implementing its curriculum. The upper chamber also approved resolutions resetting the BARM election, strengthened agriculture and food security through the passage of the Congressional Commission on Agriculture, Fisheries, and Food Security, or the AgriCom Act, as well as the approval of the Philippine Veterans Month Act, law enforcement of body-worn cameras, and the Free Overseas Filipino Workers Financial Education Act. In the nick of time, the Congress also passed a law giving President Bongbong Marcos Jr. the emergency power to either reduce or suspend the excise tax on petroleum products given the impact of the ongoing conflict in the Middle East that affects the market of oil, diesel, and gasoline. While it awaits its final transmission for the President's signature into law, the senators are also set to tackle amendments to the Biofuels Act of 2006 and the probable effect of importing biofuels to the sugar, coconut, and processing sectors in the country. According to Finance Committee Chair Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, around 400,000 farmers and processing plant workers of ethanol may be affected.
Kailangan pag-aralan kung tunay na bababa yung presyo dahil yung biofuels pag nag-import ka may blend din siya no? So kailangan ma-compute mabuti kung talagang bababa yung presyo. Unlike yung excise tax na clear na matatanggal 10 pesos or 6 pesos, ito is not so clear. Kung talagang sa pag-aaral malaking impact sa consumers, pwede mag-special session. Committed ang Senado doon na magko-convene kami for a special session.
There was a lot of fear among our colleagues na affected talaga sila. Tsaka maliit lang naman yung mawawala sa presyo, di ba? Kasi maliit lang na blend ng biodiesel at saka yung ethanol. So our colleagues, particularly the minority and some members of the majority, wanted a longer discussion on the floor.
Related to petroleum products, with the rise of its pump prices in gasoline stations, PUV drivers supposedly expected a fare hike this week, but it was temporarily suspended by PBBM. This in turn made PUV drivers and transport advocates turn to the streets to rally for their causes. However, Senator Gatchalian has an assurance in mind.
Temporary lang naman to, no? Hindi naman sinasabi na hindi tataas, temporary. So, unahin mo na yung ibang mechanisms na hindi inflationary. Kasi kalaban talaga dyan, inflation eh. Pag nagtaas ng fare hike, sigurado ako itataas ng mga manufacturers yung kanilang produkto. No? Kasi pass on yan eh. Yung mga empleyado, hihingi rin ng additional sweldo para bayaran yung kanilang fare hike. Temporary lang to para magawan yung mabigay yung mga ibang mekanismo tulad ng pantawid pasada at iba pang mga direct subsidies.
Meanwhile, Senate President Tito Soto also filed a bill repealing the country's oil deregulation law, which limits government intervention on the regulation of pump prices being imposed by oil companies. For other measures, Senator Joel Villanueva, chairperson of the Senate Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currency, also filed Senate Bill number 1983, which aims to strengthen the Anti-Money Laundering Act. This aims to give more teeth to the Anti-Money Laundering Council or AMLAC by responding to the changing financial landscape, meaning the entities subject to the AMLAC compliance requirements will include trust and company service providers, lawyers, and accountants engaged in specified financial transactions, as well as online gambling operators and virtual asset providers. The bill also sets an amount for cash transactions, which the AMLAC may investigate into if going beyond the limit. The AMLAC will also be given authority to issue transaction suspension orders, administrative freeze orders, and subpoenas in its investigations.
Money talks, but dirty money whispers, usually through complicit entities. Kaya kailangan po talaga natin ng isang mas malakas na batas para habulin po ang mga kriminal na pilit itinatago ang bakas ng kanilang mga transaksyong pinansyal.
Committee hearings in the Senate will still proceed according to its schedule, while the resumption of its regular plenary sessions will be on May 4, 2026. Kapatid Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
Well, don't go away. We still have more matters to discuss right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. And now in sports, key matches took place in the 2026 PVL All-Filipino Conference at the Phil Oil Center in San Juan. The Next-Led Chameleons kept their qualifying round hopes alive by rallying past the PLDT high-speed hitters in 4 sets. MJ Phillips earned Player of the Game honors, finishing with 16 points on 11 attacks, 2 blocks, and 3 service aces. Meanwhile, the Choco Mucho Flying Titans claimed the 7th seed in the play-in round with a 4-set victory over the Zeus Coffee Thunderbells. Dina Wong stood out as Player of the Game after delivering 14 excellent sets and adding 5 points. And now it's all systems go in Seoul, South Korea for the much-anticipated comeback of global supergroup BTS. Preparations are in full swing at Gwanghwa Moon Square, where around 260,000 fans from around the world are expected to gather this Saturday. Security has been heightened, while nearby businesses are bracing for the surge of fans. The free concert will run for about an hour, and it will be live streamed globally via Netflix in 190 countries. And before we go, a social enterprise turned plastic waste into 500 school chairs, which were handed over to 3 public schools in Parañaque City on World Recycling Day. Mobile journalist Francis Rivera has that story.
Plastic Flamingo Philippines, in partnership with CMA-CGM, donated 500 recycled chairs to students of Marcelo Green High School in Parañaque City last Wednesday, March 18. Present at the ceremony were PLUF founder and CEO Francois Losoj, CMA-CGM Philippines Managing Director Sivakuma Tigambaranat, representatives from the Parañaque LGU, DepEd, and the Schools Division Office of Parañaque, as well as Her Excellency Marie Fontanelle, Ambassador of France to the Philippines. These chairs are made entirely of recycled plastic waste, transformed into durable armchairs designed to provide comfort and improve students' daily learning conditions. One problem among public school students is the lack of proper seating. Damaged chairs without desk are a common sight in any government learning institution. But PLUF aims to address this issue, one chair at a time.
Every chair is 100% made of recycled plastic. About 21 kilograms of plastic in each chair that will not end up in the ocean. Plus, not only it's made of recycled plastic, but it's made of the plastic that are the worst recycled. The one nobody uses recycled, the sachet, the nuclear plastic is aluminum.
And these recycled chairs do not only benefit students and schools, but the environment as well.
Very happy when we rely on companies, French companies like CMA, CGM, but also the PLUF, Plastic Flamingo, to be on the ground proving that it's possible to give plastic a second life, which will help definitely students have better conditions for learning at school.
With over 1,300 students, the principal of Marcelo Green High School Parañaque is simply grateful.
I would like to extend my appreciation to this event and also to the donation you have given us to our school. I know this will help our students to become more motivated to learn. So thank you so much.
PLUF, or the Plastic Flamingo, is a locally based social enterprise that aims to transform plastic waste into 100% recycled products. Meanwhile, CMA-CGM Group is a global leader in sea, land, air, and logistics solutions, with a commitment to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Kapatid! Mobile journalist Francis Rivera, we are One News.
And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters for this week. We hope we've given you just the right start to your morning. Let's make the day matter. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time.